All right. My name is Janet, also known as Rocky's Adventure, and this is the Unsubscribed Tribe. I'm here again with my good friend Ben Lee. Ben, how are you doing?
Same old, same stuff, different day. Out here, post long weekend, trying to catch up and recover, but all is good. Can't complain. How's everything with you?
Good, good. I've been getting a lot of sun lately, actually. I'm getting concerned. I keep on forgetting to put on sunscreen. Have you been getting sun? Looks like you got a little bit of color going on.
Yeah, I got out in the sun all day in downtown Toronto on Monday. Little sunburns on my face and arms, but
No
I'll turn
umbrella,
it.
eh?
I'll turn
Not
into nice golden tan in a few days, anyways.
not
So
rocking that
I'm not
fair
complaining.
skin look.
Yeah, that classical Asian fair skin thing never made any sense to me. There's a whole backstory behind that, eh? I never knew that. You ever seen this, like when you live in Toronto, of like Asian girls carrying umbrellas on hot days, on bright sunny days?
Yeah, you did talk, didn't you talk about this in the last episode?
Oh yes, that's right. Totally forgot about that. But yeah, definitely not rocking the fair skin Asian mark.
Yeah, for sure. Although I feel like the skyscrapers would probably give you a lot of shade anyways.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding.
Well, I'm thinking back to when I was in Toronto and, when we were back on the internet and T Nation, like it's just funny to be in COVID right now and everyone's been forced to go online. But I know for me, having traveled so much across Canada, I have, been able to build a resilient network of friends, like including yourself, where I keep in touch with these guys, no matter where I am at a distance, where I think a lot of people are really used to that in-person contact. So, I was just thinking about like our friends. We talked about Clive, we talked about, Glen Owen. There's people that I can't wait to have conversations with and see where they're at. But we had, I think, a really unique time where a lot of the really strong evidence based fitness professionals got their start on the internet, and that was the content that we were reading. And this is before marketing and algorithms took over. This is back when it was quality content and great research. And so I wanted to talk about who I call the fathers of fitness. So one that is very close to my heart and I'd love to start with is Charles Poliquin. I found Poliquin articles, and he was always, I feel like, the clinical professional. Like he was very no nonsense, and just wrote really quality science stuff. And that was back on the days of T Nation. And I feel like I found him in the fitness forums. We had that group of people and we shared articles, and that's where it all began for me.
Yeah, like Poliquin is definitely one of these like grandfathers of the industry, of the modern industry. And unfortunately, a lot of people nowadays like to shit on Poliquin, but I think part of that is that for these younger guys, they're trying to make a name off of breaking down older guys. It's like how a lot of people shit on Stu's work
It's an
so that
algorithm
they
game for
can
them.
build themselves. Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And like so guys like I can actually name it like Brett Contreras, if heard of that guy before, the glute guy. He was a guy massively shit on Poliquin, and I remember he came to
Did
visit
he?
us. Oh man, yeah, I
Okay,
think that's
because I was thinking about him, because, and I didn't know if I wanted to say this or not, but I seem to think that he was involved with a woman who came out and said that he was like a complete narcissist and like cheated on her like crazy. And I started following her. Did you hear that? Is that true? Am I wrong?
so without trying to slander or defame anyone and have it recorded on video, from people I've talked to who've met him, that thought would not. I would not be surprised if that thought came out to be true.
Interesting. Okay, because I
So
feel like I heard that him like I feel like I heard this all come out on a podcast with the Best Life, like Jill Coleman was talking about it with, I think her name is So He Fit or something. And then it's funny because talking to you now, listening to how he went about making a name for himself, it's very disingenuous. So that does not seem out of character in terms of the other stuff I've heard about him.
yeah, like I actually met him back in 2013 because he came to visit us in Waterloo. Like he flew down. He had dinner with Stu and all of us in the lab and Stu's family, and he spent the day just shadowing us in the lab. And I think because he wanted to do his PhD in biomechanics at the time, and after meeting him, we were all kind of like, well, there's a reason this guy is an online coach, not an academic. And so how that story goes. But even then, looking at his website, yeah, like it's all he's, I get the fact that he's going to market himself as the glute guy, so to speak. There's pictures of chicks' asses all over his website, and him doing like hip thrusts. But yeah, it just seems a little like disingenuous. I get the feeling part of his visit was so he could write about it and make a post about it on his website, saying that he knows Stu McGill and all this, to basically trying to attach his name to Stu's.
Yeah, it's
So
interesting. So he was slandering a whole bunch of Poliquin stuff.
yeah, and that's
Very
the thing.
interesting to like target somebody who has like multiple Olympic like and world
Yeah,
champions, which is funny
yeah,
because I think like as Poliquin developed, like the last speech I saw, he introduced himself and he mentions all of the accolades of his athletes. Like he sets up, like as he continued to grow his brand and his coaching expertise, whenever he went to speak, he set people up with the knowledge of like, this is what I fucking accomplished.
yeah, totally. And like I totally get it. Same thing with Stu is that people will try to break down their predecessors before them who have big names, because it's all about the algorithm. At the end of the day, if I make a YouTube video, it's telling you why Stu McGill is full of shit. You pick up that Stu McGill reference in the algorithm. Now anyone looking at Stu McGill stuff, your video is gonna pop up there, and that's how you're gonna get your views.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the thing with Poliquin is that the guy is a fantastic thinker. He has so many great ideas, and tried to research or apply them. We were talking about biosig, for example, and yeah, sure. Research like the actual academic research out there may not support the actual biosig process or the actual findings, but the overall concept of that various skin fold sites correlating to various hormonal disruptions, like that, like it holds weight. Like I would not be surprised, like anecdotally you can pick up a lot of evidence about that. And I think unfortunately what's one thing that people don't seem to get is that scientific research is not meant to refute anecdotal stuff that has already happened, because you can't tell someone like, oh, there's no way you could have lost fat by having this diet because the research says it can't happen. Then okay, and how the fuck did I lose all this weight? But it's the thing like Stu would talk about all the time, saying that researchers will try to refute practitioners in the field because it's not evidence based. But I mean, if no research has been done in this field, then how can it be evidence based in the first place?
Yeah.
So that was a big, I know for Stu, that was a big thing in his research was, how do we explain these phenomenon that's already occurring out there? Like the Bruce Lee 1-inch punch, or the fact that some of these 50-kilo weightlifters are putting triple body weight over their head. This stuff should be physically impossible, yet it occurs. So the goal of the research is to figure out what is the mechanism that governs that, and how can we manipulate that to our advantage for other aspects. So something like Poliquin, you get a lot of theories that may not be too well hashed out, but when you spend some time to actually think about them, like the underlying principles make great sense. So that's why I really like Poliquin, because he's willing to ask the questions and come up with hypotheses that a lot of people would be afraid to even touch.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things he said is that the research is like 20 years behind,
Mm-hmm.
or, in
Yep.
terms of where. And so this kind of really spoke to me because I've been doing a lot of things, working with you in terms of body mechanics and also stuff that's like metaphysical, emotional, meditation, all this kind of stuff, energy. And I'm like blown away by it. And I'm now coming across some research that's also aligning with these kinds of experiences that I'm having and seeing the potential for them. But there's not huge bodies of research out there. And like, frankly, even when you dig into the research that is out there, it's really hard to say that it's incredibly conclusive. Like a lot of the stuff that they test, food on or allergens on or whatever, it's mice, it's animals, it's rats. And so humans don't function the exact same way that they do. And with things like, determining direct causation for things like cancer, you can't just give somebody a compound, like make them smoke until they get cancer, and like, see, they got cancer. Like, yes, it does cause it. Like, then they're going to die. So there's an ethical issue with being able to actually prove that things are harmful or cause disease, because you cannot actually have an ethical study where you're creating disease in people. So to have, it's funny because I had somebody just go off on me because I shared something on the Food Babe the other day, and she thinks that everything from the Food Babe is wrong. And I'm like, look, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that she's like, I don't agree with everything that she says, but she shows a lot of the compounds and the ingredients that are in foods that are problematic to most people and are the cause of a lot of hormonal disruptions, endocrine disruptions, and stuff like that. And I'm really jumping on that. And that research is just coming out now. And then I look at the general population and I see everybody consuming all these hormone disruptors and creating this disease, now that I understand the physiology of it. And frankly, in the dating world, it's just that it's hopeless. I can't deal with it right now.
Yeah, talk about trickle down effects, eh? Like it's a manufacturing company wants to save costs, so they use some weird ass plastic in all the containers. That plastic leaches into the foodstuffs and creates estrogens. Then all the dudes consuming this lower the testosterone levels, and you start to wonder how come this guy can't get it up. So
And then
this
they
this
fight with me in the comments on Instagram when I say it. Like, I just had these guys the other day argue with me, and I'm like, I don't even care anymore because I know that I'm right. And I know that you're having a fucking PMS meltdown because your estrogen levels are high. Like, let's stop pretending that women have PMS right now. I can see everybody is dysregulated in terms of hormones. And I only know this because I used to feel like that. And now that I've got my hormones under control, I'm like, whoa, I understand what it feels like to be on the other side of that.
Yeah, it's a funny situation like that. I mean, talk about. I had a conversation earlier today about like trickle down economics, and everything is just trickle down. And yeah, like the cascading effect that one little decision can have about the kind of material you use to package your bottled water can now indirectly result in you getting in some massive flame war with some guy on the internet over some misogynistic comment they said. So like what the hell, like what the hell's going on here? Like it's such a weird butterfly effect that's going on.
Yeah, two of the guys that I'm looking into for hormone health, actually, it's interesting. A lot of them, like, they're just men, and a lot of them are chiropractors. So
Hmm.
Dr. Eric Serrano,
Yeah.
who deals with a lot of bodybuilders and power lifters, and some of the stuff that he has out there is incredible. Watching it on the Swiss conference, and then Dr. Rob Rakowski, his I just watched his video on thyroid dysfunction and thyroid protocol, and these are guys that I'm going to go back and watch again and again. Serrano in particular is super entertaining. He wears like a Spider-Man shirt when he's presenting, and he makes jokes and he makes fun of people in the audience. I don't know if you've seen any of his work.
Yeah. And I know who Dr. Serrano is.
Yeah, yeah. So he talks a lot about like dealing with testosterone and just all these things that we consume in our everyday life, whether it's products that we're putting on our bodies or, things that we're ingesting. And it's all these convenience-based things, and people fall into this trap, I think, and they're consuming these compounds that make them stressed out, and then they can't, and it's just a continuous cycle.
Yeah, like you talk about cascading effects. I remember back when I was in school, it was this weird transitionary period where I'd finished my undergrad, but the kin department wouldn't let me start my master's unless I took like 2 semesters of undergrad courses there. So I took this advanced nutrition course that was really well taught. Like I was going into this thinking they're going to teach us some bullshit about the Canadian food pyramid, and that's going to be the course. But no, like the professor, Dr. Ken Stark, is a huge name in the world of fatty acid metabolism.
Yep, I've heard of him
And
before.
okay, yeah, wow. He's got a pretty crazy backstory himself. Apparently, I don't know if I should tell the story or not, but from what I heard from other students, he had a full ride scholarship to Yale University to play hockey. And he was in the same frat that George W. Bush was in. I mean, not at the same time, but like it's the same lineage.
Hmm.
And from what I hear, I mean, this is where the story could go off the rails. Is that he got kicked out of Yale for just being drunk all the time and like not going to class. So when he came back home to Ontario, went to the University of Guelph, and as a consolation prize is now a professor and a researcher in the world of human physiology. But
Oh.
yeah, not to mention that this guy can drink too. Holy shit! So this
Oh,
guy's
really?
known for
It's
can
like it's
drink.
kind of aligned with exactly they're like, so there's a story behind that.
Yeah, like we used to have this annual hockey game, the Aftab Patla Memorial Game or Memorial Cup, named after like a professor that passed away, and it's like grad students and professors versus the undergrads. So Stark would play, and then guys like probably the best player on the ice. And there'd be stories, you know, in the locker room, like how the guy has like a tooth for it and he's crushing beers between periods. And then after the game's over, all the profs and the students go to the on-campus bar. And I would see Stark, they're just fucking just pounding beers and mixed drinks. It was getting like insanely wasted. But anyways, a bit of a digression. Um,
You know what? It's funny because like to see how people actually live their life. One of the people one of the I think um original, big names for me in fitness, John Berardi. I jumped on him when he had his first go at precision nutrition. I got the first copy of that and I've followed him ever since. I met him in person when I actually worked for a sugar company and I was super excited. And I think he thought I was pretty fucking crazy, which in retrospect, true. But I was actually working in social media and he didn't have any social media at the time. So I told him to get social media. So I'm glad he listened to me. I've gotten probably more advice from him over the last few years. It's been really interesting to see him transition to fatherhood. That's been awesome. He seems to have a rock star family, his kids. He's posting pictures of them. He posts pictures of their food all the time, which I just love that. And he's started a new podcast. And one of the things he's talking
oh,
about, listening to this 3-part series on bad research, bad science, and falsities in publications of journals and people that go after this. So the third episode, actually, they talk about the Joe Rogan podcast. So I'm really looking forward to getting through the second one so I can listen to that one.
oh man, yeah, like you know, Joe Rogan is such an enthusiastic guy, but some of this like information he gets is just so bad. And I mean, you can't really fault him because the guy Joe is not an academic by any stretch of the imagination. He's just having people tell him stuff, and he's like, okay, well, this guy seems credible. I should listen to him. And like that's actually how I got to listening to Rhonda Patrick, Dr. Rhonda Patrick,
Yeah.
the found My Fitness, because I remember the Joe Rogan podcast he used to have Dave Asprey on pretty
Mm.
frequently, you know, like the bulletproof executive guy.
I
And
I
Dave,
like him, but he goes a little bit too superhuman far for me. I feel like I
so
just want to be a normal person.
so that's how Rhonda Patrick actually got into Joe Rogan, was that apparently she listened to the Dave Asprey podcast and was like, no, 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 this is really bad information. Like this is this huge disservice. Like you're deceiving these people. So she contacted Joe and came onto the podcast to refute a bunch of the stuff he said. You know, like Dave said
Oh,
that
okay.
that really expensive coffee that doesn't contain mycotoxins like those funguses
Bulletproof?
bulletproof
Bulletproof coffee?
coffee.
Yeah.
And that's when you
That's
put
his.
the grass-fed butter and the coconut oil
Oh,
into,
I
into
did
the
that for a while.
coffee.
I gained like 15 pounds. It was
Yeah,
great.
not I mean, when you're eating like 600 calories from pure fat first thing in the morning, not surprised. And he would call that his fasting diets. It's like, yeah, when you're eating that much fat at once, you're no longer fasted. Like, come
By the
on.
way, that would probably work for some. It probably works for some people. I was like post concussion, like leaky gut at that point, so that was not a good nutritional protocol for me.
Yeah, it's kind of like like Jordan and Michaela Peterson go and sing the praises of the
Are you
carnivore
really bringing
diet.
them up right now?
But like, and then again, Rhonda
Talking about like the
Patrick.
fathers of fitness and nutrition, and you're gonna drop that name?
Well, this is a roundabout way to talk about Rhonda Patrick
Okay.
because she brought that up in an episode, and she was like, well, you can't deny the fact that they helped improve the autoimmune disorders, but it's most likely not for the reasons that they're claiming it is. Odds are
Also,
because
Jordan Peterson ended up a drug addict. Like he
yeah,
depleted
but
his body, like he depleted his gut of all the neurotransmitters that he needed to function, and he became super depressed, wasn't able to handle like his wife got cancer. Sorry, that's something that happens, like, dude. And you didn't get cancer, she got cancer, and then they had to deal with your dumb ass because you became a drug addict. Like frankly, like the guy is going down pretty hard.
Yeah, and that's what she talked about, was that a lot of people, will attribute benefit, success they've had to certain things, when in reality it wasn't that. It was just some other byproduct. But
Yeah,
when
like
they
you quit
start going,
dairy, Jordan. Good job.
yeah, it's like, well, like of
You're
course,
gluten
like
free
if
now.
you guys are like intolerant to wheat and you're getting these major autoimmune disorders because of wheat intake, of course you're going to solve that if you're not eating wheat.
Yeah.
But instead they're saying, oh no, it's the animal proteins that are making me better. It's like, I highly doubt that. Same thing with like intermittent fasting. Like people talk about, oh yeah, the IF, makes you more insulin sensitive and you gain less fat, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, at the end of the day, IF is just a way to control your caloric intake, calories in versus calories out. Like, come on, like it's that, it really is that basic.
Well, at
What
the
do
end
they
of the day,
call
it's
it?
just annoying. Like I just don't want to run I want to run my eating by my life. Like my eating fits into my life, not the other way around, Like if I don't want to be restricted in terms of calories and then deal with like brain fog or energy levels or, not being able, like I want to go to dinner with people. If I ever have a date again, but at least I've got girlfriends at this point.
Yeah, it's like literally Occam's razor. The simplest solution is often the correct one.
Yeah.
And people start coming up with all these crazy ass theories, and they try to market themselves and create their Instagram profiles around them, like the glute guy, for example. And yeah, this is how all this misinformation gets mixed in. To back to one of your topics about correlation and causation. One of the big things that Stu McGill taught me was that there is no such thing as a definitive scientific study, because that is physically impossible. There's so many like especially for human health, like human physiology or just general overall human health is so multifactorial. It's physically impossible to control for all these little conditions. Like if we're going to run a study on cancer, for example, you have to control like their sleep, water, diet, timing of nutrients, drugs they're doing. There's so much stuff.
Body products, like are they like in terms of like what they're applying to their face, what
Yeah,
are they like consuming?
face creams, deodorant, shampoos, how much, like how often drink out of plastic bottles, like
Where
how do
they're
you
like their
standardize
region,
stuff?
like where are they located that they're getting their water from, right? Like I used to live on a completely water, like a mountain fed water supply over like across the highway there. Not anymore. Now I'm drinking fluoride and chlorine.
Yeah, all the mind controlling substances.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, like, and Stu would talk about that a lot. And unfortunately, one of the big disservices that are done is done by like the mainstream media, where journalists will get a hold of like a study and they'll interpret it their own way and write an article about it. And this is how, like people will start saying that, oh, Stu McGill is the guy who says don't do sit-ups. And it's like, no, he never said that once in his entire career. He did say that repetitive cycles of spinal flexion extension, especially under high load, will wear a spinal disc out much faster. And while that can be construed as, okay, what mechanism like that exists in real life? Sit-ups. That's not to say you should never, ever bend your spine again. And unfortunately, this is what happens. So, like a research, or rather, Stu will do the research, we publish the papers, then a journalist picks up on it. Next thing you know, you see an MSN.com article about, oh, the professor that tells you not to do sit-ups. And it's like, oh fuck, like this is great. Like, same thing with like the vaccine. Like that was a big thing. Anything to do, and even I remember like something that came out in the news about maybe 5-ish years ago that said that multivitamins didn't work. And the story behind that was, it was a study done on cancer, and they wanted to see if multivitamins had an effect on cancer rates in cancer, or cancer remission in cancer patients, I
So
believe.
it didn't cure cancer.
Yeah, it
So
didn't
it
cure
didn't work to
cancer.
cure cancer, but they just said it didn't work.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
then the main take-home point from the articles you would read on, whatever, like MSN or whatever, or CNN or whatever, was multivitamin researchers say multivitamins don't work.
Nice. Nice. Wow, that's a stretch. on that one. Yeah, John Berardi actually just had this awesome podcast, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. But his whole, I think that like in terms of when you're looking at people to follow, Poliquin, his stuff was like I think higher level, and then Berardi's stuff is like super practical. I think for the everyday person. Not to say that he's not higher level. And it's interesting. I've been watching some of his old seminars and seeing him in like 2012, let's say, and 2015, and watching his speaking style evolve. He was so nervous when he first started speaking, but then when I met him, I want to say, in person, that was at the time that he was with GSP, and he was again, confident enough to be able to assert, his expertise and let people know who he was. I actually introduced him to the guy that ran the Sportsnet fight show. I think his name was Joe, and then that led to an interview with them. So that's still out there. One of the people that I still follow and I still get great value from is Nick Taminello. Like he actually posts a lot of great stuff in terms of activation, anti-rotational stuff, core work. So I love following his exercises, but he posted a great tip the other day, and it was because his mom commented on how people in the gym are wearing their massive headphones. I don't wear these to the gym. I have little earbuds that actually cause me problems with the fucking mask. Anyways, but so I started taking anyways, the mom said like we don't talk to each other. So I started taking my headphones off as I walked into the gym, and I said hi to all the staff. And now I do that every time and I interact with the staff. I used to like that was where I discovered my love for fitness is I got a job at Good Life. I was at the front desk and I loved being that person to high five people, although you can't do that because of COVID right now. But it makes a difference for people. And you know what, for the staff right now and the stuff that they're dealing with in terms of COVID and regulations and stuff and people that are just being rude to them, I'm making sure to let them know they're doing a great job. I am honestly so thankful. It's a fucking sick ass gym. I was there 2 years ago. The vibe was not the same. It seems like there's a lot more athletes in there. I don't know if they're from the school or something. Used to be very bodybuilder, very fitness model, aesthetic vibe. And now everyone's a little bit more athletic. I mean, they still look amazing, but I mean, they're popping up handstands, seeing some really good form in some of the lifts and stuff. So overall, just really happy with that gym. But Nick's
Nice.
advice was still, just even that advice from his mom, still rang true. So super thankful that he's still pumping out great content.
Yeah, it's number one. I'm actually pretty jealous that you actually go to a gym right now. I haven't touched a barbell in about how long now? Since September 2019. So how long ago was that? That's like we're coming in 2 years, like 1.5 years now, of not touching anything heavier than 80 pounds, like or 70 pounds, my 70 pound kettlebell. And yeah, like so I'm really jealous that you can actually go to a gym. But
Man,
I
that's a
totally get
really
it. Like,
long time.
yeah, this is the longest I've gone without touching like a weight over 100 pounds in
Wow. It's
ever,
not
like
going to the
ever.
gym, man. It sucks. It sucks. Like that just made me gasp for you. Like my heart goes out.
Yeah, well, it's I can work on my aerobic conditioning and like my breathing technique and solving all these massive asymmetries and motor control problems I have. And I think about it as this downtime during COVID here in Toronto has helped me isolate the stuff. And I've made like the progress, like, so for those who don't know, I've torn my left quad tendon twice, my right quad tendon once, did that, had the surgery on the right one just before, like literally 3 months before COVID. And I was just here rehabbing, but all this time just spending in my basement, also working with a great clinician, we've probably made the best progress on like my motor control, my balance. Because especially turning the left quad twice, like I remember my left leg was shot, like it just shrunk right up. I had no stability. I would walk down the stairs and just fall down the stairs. They would just buckle under me. And now the fact I can start jumping again, skipping rope, I can start to run. It's like, wow, I haven't skipped rope since 2017. So think about
Yeah.
that for a minute. But it is wild. And like, yeah, like to your point about the headphone thing, it's funny. Like I noticed cultural differences, say between big box gyms and boutique gyms.
Hmm.
So for example, like at a Good Life, like I mean, before the pandemic, you would get maybe like 100 people inside the facility. They're all wearing headphones, and just 100 people doing 100 different things, their own little thing. But you go to like a boutique gym, or let's say even like a CrossFit gym, it's all about community. Like you're going to get maybe only 20 people inside the facility, but you can almost guarantee that almost every single one of them know each other. They know their names, they know what they do, they know like their favorite foods. Like it's a real like tight knit community atmosphere. And having I guess moved around from different gyms throughout Southern Ontario, the ones that seem to do really well, the boutique ones, are the ones that really cultivate that community atmosphere.
Mhm.
So they're ones who are regularly holding potlucks, Christmas parties, summer luau's. Like even like when I was training Muay Thai at Waterloo, we had a really tight knit community because we were always having like little events, like, oh, come over and watch some Muay Thai fights. Come over and watch the UFC. Oh, we have an the term party, obstacle course race. Just like stuff that where people are to learn each other's names, so that when you walk in there, you're not just ignoring the person. It's like, hey Joe, hey Jane, how's it going? But I find that really helps cultivate just like a great environment to be in.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, just thinking right now, as you're talking and how that's been taken away, the whole community aspect with COVID, but, being able to find your community online. And I think that that's like a huge thing that's going to be coming out of this is people are going to be um, driving towards more micro tribes and finding people whose values align with them, who they want to learn from. I'm hoping that's, where people's energy is going to be driving instead of spending it fighting with other people online. Go and connect with people and continue to grow and continue to learn. That's kind of been the big thing for me, when we talk about people to learn from. I love having this subscription to the Swiss conference, and coming across a lot of different researchers, a lot of different doctors, and people that are working in the field of health and fitness that I wouldn't have been exposed to before,
Mhm.
because I consume a lot of stuff on TikTok and Instagram, and that's not necessarily, I think, the most quality source for the best information.
Mhm. Yeah, getting your information, just from like Instagram, probably not the best idea in the world. But to your point, there's a saying, I think it was Stephen Hawking who talked about all his work. He stood on the shoulders of giants to get to where
Mm,
he is. And I think that holds true for anyone who's ever accomplished anything. Stu, again, I keep going back to Stu McGill because he's my primary influence. I used to read his work before I ever met him, and I did my master's with him and has learned so much from him. And even he would talk about, the research he does, it's all predicated from his master's, or sorry, rather, his PhD supervisor, Bob Norman, all the work Bob did. And before Bob, all the work from, say, Punjabi, Stokes, Gardner Morse, et cetera, et cetera. All these all these major researchers in the world of spine biomechanics that people never really heard about unless you were in the know. So even when Stu talks about the work that we've done in the lab, the research we published, we're basically adding bricks to the wall of science. It's that Bob Norman and Punjabi created the base layers. Now I'm just putting my brick on top of that. Someone else 10 years from now, they're going to put their brick on top of mine, and we're just building on top of each other. And I find that's such a really cool aspect. But unfortunately, going back to what we talked about earlier, it seems that nowadays, with like the social mediaization of fitness and just the world, people like want to get their names out there. They want to get impressions. They want to get views. They want to get clicks. So what do? They go find the most famous guys in this field and they shit on them because controversy creates views. And when you attach a controversy to a big name, now like let's say I put a video out on YouTube saying why Stu McGill is full of shit. Well, everyone who's looking up Stu McGill, they're going to find my video and watch it, and then boom, now I got my revenue source going. So it's
yeah, and we didn't do
unfortunately.
that at all when we opened this up. We definitely did not drop any names where they have a whole slew of haters that actually give you death threats. That's and also if those people are feeling very hormonal and have PMS, because I would think if you believe some of those archaic ideas. You probably need to address your testosterone levels and your estrogen levels. But Dr. Silverman, he's actually, I don't know if you've come across him. He's like he's a Jewish guy from New York, and he's so entertaining. I really enjoy his his seminars that are on the Swiss conference. Another chiropractor talks a lot about estrogen toxicity, talks a lot about liver detoxification. I have been following him on Facebook and Instagram, and so a lot of the stuff that he publishes is great. He's a great personality, and this is just where I'm getting my information. And so the funny thing is, talking about people that do marketing online, there was this guy that he is running sponsored ads that he's going to help coaches. And I fucking hate this shit. Like, I worked with a lot of high level Olympic coaches, national level team coaches. We've learned from, I think, some of the best people in the world. So I publish my content based on the real information that I'm getting, and actually delivering stuff that can help people. Whereas these people focus on algorithms and stuff like that. Like, my old boss suggested that I go and pick up some pre-made copyright-free content, and I went, I don't want to do that. Like, I actually don't want to play that game, which means I'm not going to grow as fast. But I don't fucking care. I'm not here to grow. I'm here to help. So this guy, I comment on his shit, and he's like, why aren't you getting DMs or people aren't going? And I'm like, yeah, well, fuck, man. Actually, I am. My insights say that you're wrong. And then he's like, wow, your content is super valuable. And I'm like, I don't respond to him. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And then a couple weeks later, he messages me, and I don't know if this is an AI function that's in his DMs, but he messaged me and he said, hey, I saw that you liked one of my photos, so wanted to touch base and see how things are going on your end of the world. And I'm like, I didn't like your photo. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't like your photo. I don't like your disingenuous approach. I know that my value, he's already come to me and been like, my content's hot. I'm like, I know, because I actually know shit. I know about how to help people, and selling to people is something I don't really want to try to do, because I think that helping people is going to speak for itself at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's anything, anytime. So number one, this guy definitely has an AI automated messaging thing, because all this shit exists. There's actually one for LinkedIn for cold messaging. And it's all AI based. You just tell it what fields do you want to search in, what are the positions of the people you want to reach out to. Then it just works its magic, send these automated messages, automated follow-ups. You can actually customize the script you want into there. So yeah, I'm not surprised Instagram, and I'm sure every single social media platform has a certain version of this. But one of the big things that you touched on, which was really, really valid, was the idea that you look at this whole stuff and it's really disingenuous. Like, you can tell that this is all just built for the pure sake of marketing to get as many views as possible. And so again, my big influence, Stu McGill, like this guy, like, I mean, I don't want to talk about what he charges, but it's a lot. I mean, the guy's the world's leading expert, so you're paying those prices. But all the work that he's gotten when he was still a professor was all through word of mouth. Like, he told me he never spent a single cent on marketing or advertisement. It was just the quality of work, and like the research he published got pumped out there. People started talking about it, so they contacted him. He worked with them, did a great job. They told their friends, and it just spread like wildfire. I can think about another one of my influences, like I've mentioned this multiple times, but coming from like particularly the Thai boxing or Muay Thai world, it's a very Eastern. The style that I learned from is very based in Eastern philosophies, and it's basically no ego. And one of like the trainers I briefly and I worked under, which I wish I had a lot more time to work under, crew Nick Batista over at Brampton Muay Thai. He said used to say the same thing when I'd see him briefly, that he spends barely any money on like on a marketing budget. His goal is to give good instruction, good Muay Thai, create like a welcoming atmosphere and community. And if it takes hold, it's going to grow. Like, he's not concerned about making millions of dollars marketing some online system or trying to dilute his student population of bullshit. He's trying to, like, even like when you go into his gym, it's written on the wall there. This is not this is a school, not a store. And I thought that was really cool because their whole MO is to just build better people. I mean, not just to make them fighters, but to actually, grow their mindsets. So you don't get a bunch of assholes running around claiming to know how to kick your ass.
Well, that's it. I
So
think what you just said is like really important is that you kind of like have a capacity and then you start to dilute the product, and that's just one way to look at it. Is that the farther away you get from it, and the bigger, this system becomes, you're getting farther away. And to your point, Stu Miguel charges high rates because he is the best, but that's what the market demands in terms of his time. He's got a limited amount of time, and that's important. Yeah, and it's funny, talking about results, I think, are the ones that speak. That's definitely why I'm riding your coattails and happy to have our conversations here every week because I know that you're getting super busy and your software, really helped me identify a lot of weaknesses. So, do you want to tell people a little bit about what it is that you guys do over there?
yeah, definitely. So we are a health tech company, and our goal is to improve the accessibility and quality of exercise, for particularly for injury prevention and performance. Because one of the big things, if you go see like a therapist or a trainer, they take you through a movement screen or a movement assessment, and it's just pure subjective interpretation as to what's going on. So they're
Hmm.
telling you about what you need to improve upon just looking at you. And when you have like a very junior individual or someone who's not very skilled, if the assessment is not good, the training and the exercise program that's developed out of that is going to be garbage. Garbage in equals garbage out. So what we do is we make the inputs much more objective, but also being done in a very quick and easy way. And so what we have here is a virtual movement screen where we're able to screen someone for the way they move in a battery of tests and be able to very objectively identify limitations in the way they move as well as compensations which can either increase the risk of injury or decrease their performance. And the best part is we can do this through just simply filming you with your smartphone or your webcam. So this is all through some proprietary AI technology we developed. We're able to get measures of 3D human motion just through a basic camera source. But once we have all this really hardcore data, we get that people are not data scientists. No one cares about looking at numbers and graphs, all that kind of nerdy bullshit. They just want to know, based on this assessment, what do I need to do so I can reach my physical goals? So with our company, we do on the back end, we do all that nerdy scientific data analysis, data science, data processing, and we distill it down into on a joint by joint level. Here are your high risk factors. Here's why we consider them risk factors. And now here are exercises I'd recommend you do not do to not exacerbate your condition. And here are exercises I recommend you do so you can improve upon the limitations that we found. So with our business, Fortius Labs, we operate on a hybrid model. I actually train my own set of personal clients. So if anyone's listening out there and you're not happy with the way your personal trainer is helping you, you're not happy with the way your therapist is helping you, come see us. Go to Fortius Labs, fortius-labs.com or at Fortius Labs, all one word, on Instagram. Shoot me a message because I really stand by the quality of what we do. I've really poured a lot of my own technical expertise into developing our algorithms. I validated them against a lot of other systems. I'm very confident that this stuff works well. So as a result, we have a lot of clients who came to us and said that I've had shin splints for 6 months. I've had frozen shoulder for 2 years. I've seen doctors, physiotherapists, personal trainers. They all made me worse. You guys, within a month, figured out my problem and got it better. And that's because we have unparalleled insight. No one can compare the insight we can provide as to, why are you moving the way you do? I'm sure that's what you can attest to. But on the secondary side of things, we also get that this is very valuable for personal trainers, strength and conditioning coaches, physical therapists who also have a scalability problem. So, when I take off my engineer hat and I put on my businessman hat, I think about a lot of these coaches and trainers, they're making money they generate revenue based on the number of clients that they have. number of sessions they can do, number of clients they can manage within, within a 24-hour day. But when you're spending all this time assessing your clients, developing programs based off your visual interpretation, that's a very inefficient process, which actually limits the growth of your own business. So we position this tool, our software, not only as a way to improve the quality of the training, but actually improve their time efficiency and scalability, so that not only can they better serve the clients, they can serve more clients. So it's everyone wins. The client gets better training, their health conditions are taken care of in a much more effective manner. And for the coach or the trainer, they can now see more clients, make more money, do a better job, grow their reputation, basically grow their businesses.
You know
So we
what?
look at
I think it was really cool. We talk about like having the, injuries and stuff like that. I know for me, it was like seeing it on paper, but then seeing the progress. Like when you're injured, it's really hard to have goals.
Mhm. Yeah, like for a lot of people, it's like, oh, like, like my left hip doesn't move well, or my low back hurts. Like, fuck, what do I do? And you don't really, and people unfortunately don't really have a very good objective understanding of that, of the way they move. And as well, like when you're injured, your proprioception, or your ability to sense your posture in 3D space, is completely out to whack, because all the inputs to that system are
Mhm.
miscalibrated.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, to your point, having this all this objective data to show, oh, okay, yeah, when I squat, I'm missing a whole ton of hip range of motion, because I can see this graph here. It looks really tiny compared to what the real one should be, which is this huge range of motion. So we do find that people love seeing this objective data, because it actually shows them, okay, that tells them that, okay, I've been working hard, I'm busting my ass. You can actually show tangible progress that is a marker of how hard I've worked.
Yeah, and I think that it's kind of normalized too, to just that you get old, like after 30, and that you're going to be in pain. I think for myself, I thought that was how I was going to live, was being in pain. Like it was hurting for me to lie in bed. So I'm just like blown away by the results I got. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, if you're interested, what's the website again that people should go to?
Invidius, our website is Fortius Labs. That's Fortius hyphen LABS labs.com.
And where do people go if they want to see cat pictures?
See, if you want to see pictures of cats, you go to my personal Instagram. That's BCYLEE, Bravo Charlie Yellow, Lima Echo Echo.
Oh, show off. All right. And if you want to follow me and my adventures, it's Rocky's Adventure. I'm here in BC. We just got an announcement that we are opening up for travel. And as always, I'm on the road. So, going to be listening to a lot of podcasts and hopefully have a lot of stuff to talk about with Ben. Again, if you don't like what we have to say, go ahead and smash that unsubscribe button. We don't fucking care. And that's why we're here. We are about advice, not algorithms, not advertising. And yeah, if you want to, shoot off on what we had to say about Jordan Peterson, again, we don't care. So we'll just delete your comments. And come at me, bro, because if you decide to threaten me, like I've actually fought a professional MMA coach, and as much as Jordan Peterson says that men don't hit women, they do, and women hit back. So I'm totally fine with that. Come at me. I've handled better than you. So everybody, take care.